Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lab Rats Entertainment Podcast. My name is Ezra, and I'm joined by Ahmad and Sawyer, as always. And this week we're doing something different again. Sorry, we missed last week, and we've had kind of a rough start this week. So we're just gonna go through in honor of Toy Story 4 finally releasing. We're gonna go through and discuss each Pixar film that was released since 1995, and we'll talk about them as much as we can. And then when we're done, we'll rank our top 5 Pixar films. So we'll start with the movie probably most people have seen on this list. There are like 4 movies that everybody has seen, I think. And this one is Toy Story. November 22nd, 1995. And it's really good.
I think really good is a bit of an understatement considering it's pretty much ushered in the modern state of animation.
Yeah. Well, it's revolutionary for what it was. But I find it impressive that I can still go back and watch it and be thoroughly impressed by it.
It's still a great movie outside of its technical marvel.
Yes,
right,
it is.
Right. I've talked to people who claim that they've recently rewatched Toy Story, the original one, and say that the animation in the background is better than some of the animation that we see nowadays. So
it really is. Really, the only things going back and having watched some clips from Toy Story 1 is the human character models don't look as good as the modern ones now. That's really it. Everything else still looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I will say all of the character models look a little dated. Like if you watch the newer Toy Story movies, they just have they look a little bit cleaner.
Especially Toy Story 4.
Yes. Oh, yeah. But even though they're not like the top of the line, this was 1995.
I think I was talking to somebody, and funnily enough, it was just I think it took them a couple of years to render the entire film. And I think it could take you like a couple of weeks to render it, like with the same like the software that you find in like a GameCube or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or same kind of like mechanisms and stuff.
Well, what they did with that movie is really impressive.
What's most kind of interesting to me is hearing how the actual company came to be, because it jumped through a lot of hoops to get where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It started off. I think you mentioned it started off as it was owned by Apple, Steve Jobs, and then
actually it started off as it was Lucasfilm's computer animation division.
That's
and
right.
Steve Jobs bought it from George Lucas because they were friends, and then Steve Jobs spun it off into its own company, and then I believe after that they didn't even start originally as a Disney-owned company. They had a deal for Disney to distribute their films, and Pixar would make them. And as they kept getting better and better, Disney just bought them outright.
Yeah.
I don't think it was fully Disney-owned until 2006 with Cars, I don't think.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Although, yeah, I guess so. Incredibles, is that...
I mean, they were all Disney distributed because they had a 6-picture deal, but The Incredibles was the end of that 6-picture deal.
That's right, and then they bought them out with Cars. I remember now.
Yeah.
Okay, so
it's interesting. Part of the script was co-written by Joss Whedon.
Yeah, and I didn't notice that until. And if you look at the producers, or not on here, maybe it was. It doesn't show it on here, but at some point in the credits, it does mention Steve Jobs in the credits of the original Toy Story.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
this, I mean, I haven't been excited about the Toy Story, but it's a classic film. classic.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute classic.
I mean, the story itself is
Tim Allen.
timeless.
It's probably one of the movies as a kid that I still enjoyed as a kid and still can enjoy as an adult and will watch repeatedly.
I would say most of them, not all of them, but most of them, I would say, fit into that category pretty well.
Most of the movies on this list, at any time, if you put them on, I would watch it and have a good time.
Yes.
So
let's move on to
the only thing I have to say one last thing.
In Sawyer's Eyes, A Bug's Life.
What were you saying, Maud?
Yeah. I was just gonna say Sid's Pop-Tarts are ready.
Oh, okay. Okay. But yeah, Bug's Life. For me, I actually don't remember very much of anything at all if I've even seen this movie.
I haven't seen this movie either, so
I actually have. I have, and I recall a good bit of it. There's this, like, I guess, I don't know, there's like this debate with A Bug Life and Ants.
Oh, I remember
which
that.
Which one is better? Which one isn't? I think I remember more of the Ants than I do the Bug's Life. But I mean, I from what I recall from A Bug's Life, it was like these couple of ants who go and find their friend on this like little journey who gets lost. Very similar to the ants plot line, kind of.
Yeah.
And they go through like I remember like the carnival part where they're like in a carnival. And there's like all these different type of insects, and it was just a little weird.
All I remember is Kingdom.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. It kind of like the animation style almost reminded me of the story itself and its weirdness kind of reminded me of James and the Giant Peach.
Yeah, you got a good point there.
So, but I don't know. It's a good movie. It's definitely like it was Toy Story, then A Bug's Life as a step up, and they improved on the animation.
Yeah, like I think with Bug's Life, I think it was just eclipsed by by being in between two great Pixar films.
That's true.
Part of the problem with that, as well as having to go up against a movie that was very similar in Ants, it got smothered, and there was no way it was going to find its own identity. I think it has started to recently as people go back to watch classic Pixar, but in the era it came out and everything since, it's I think it's really of Pixar's golden age. It's really the only forgotten one.
That's true. Yeah.
You don't really see any merchandise or clamoring for a sequel to Bug's Life.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I think it's a nice film. It was nice to watch as a kid, but it wasn't something memorable that I would put on like a top 10 list. That's for sure.
However, the next one certainly is.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's for sure. 1999, the year I was born.
I think this is probably my favorite Toy Story film. Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was actually surprised the other day when I figured out that 1999 was the year it came out, because I thought it was later. I thought it was like 2001, maybe 2002.
Yeah, well, they really improve on the animation, and they just sort of clean up everything. So it looks a lot more like Toy Story.
We're starting to lose you a bit there, Ezra.
That's gracious. But it definitely looks a lot better than the first Toy Story movie, and I think it has a better story.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm being honest, like the sort of.
I mean, I would agree.
Yeah, finding out that Woody is like some collector's item or something like that, and
that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then
all of it is really, really good.
Right. But you're definitely right, because they improved a lot on the technology. They had to create the film. The story itself was cool to see that kind of background kind of story as to how Woody's character came to be and all the merchandise and proprietary stuff.
Well, I thought it was really interesting. You can tell Pixar was proud of their dust effects and everything because they use the dust that they know how to make a
Oh.
lot throughout that
That's
movie.
right.
Oh yeah.
Forgot
Is
about
That was honestly.
when Woody finds Wheezy for the first time and he moves those books, those particle effects they use for the dust, I could tell Pixar was so proud of it. That's how prevalent it was.
Yeah. No,
One of my
they
favorite
really
scenes from the
did
film.
that one. I mean,
One of my favorite scenes from.
there was a lot to be proud of in that movie. Like that movie
Yeah.
is real. Like it somehow both manages to be better than the first Toy Story and not like buck the first Toy Story at the same time. Like it doesn't forget that movie, but it's way
And
better.
the production story behind this is almost as great as or like interesting as the movie itself is.
What you mean? The
'Cause,
fact
like,
that
it's-
they almost lost the whole thing.
Well, yeah, the
Yeah.
fact that they deleted the film, I think they almost said like twice. The fact that they started from scratch mere months before their release date. It's a fascinating story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a
And
lot
is
of
that
cool
whole-
Easter eggs in it too. Like I didn't even know this till I went back and watched it later that you can see a Super Nintendo in one of the scenes in the movies.
That's
Yeah.
funny. That's funny that they.
Yeah, there's a scene where when they show the Buzz Lightyear video game at the beginning. Ham and Rex are playing a Super Nintendo video game with Buzz. I never caught that until going back and watching. I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. That's cool.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was a pretty sick game to watch. I think it was. That was early on in the film, and I think they go back and
Yeah, it
finish.
was the
they go
beginning
back
of the
and-
movie.
They go back and win at the end.
Yes. That's
I think one of my favorite parts though of the film is the part where the old man comes and fixes Woody's arm. That entire kind of montage.
Mine too. That's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie.
That's and like surprisingly, even though that sounds a little lame, I think that it was just there was something just very visceral about that entire scene. And the animation also looked really beautiful too.
yeah.
And you also don't really tend to see slow scenes like that in kids' movies.
Yeah, and I think later on they kind of
That was
took
kind of
that.
interesting. Like
That's
it's
right,
not
yeah.
it's not jokes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's not very cartoony, and I think that they took that
Yeah, I
and they
thought
kind of advanced it into their later films. They kind of improved upon that kind of same familiar
where
atmosphere.
Pixar can just what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
The,
Well, I guess I like how mature that scene was, but yeah.
Oh yeah, me too.
Let's keep moving because we have a good 18 more movies to get through.
Yeah.
So Monsters
Yeah.
Inc. I really like that movie. I basically grew up on this and the next movie.
I mean, Monsters Inc. changed the game. if Toy Story didn't do it, Monsters Inc. came in and made everybody kind of really pay attention to what Pixar was making.
Yeah.
I guess it made it a household name is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree with that. They were.
If it wasn't already.
Yeah.
Pixar was a part of the film sphere.
Yeah. You had John Lasseter who had
People were
already
actively
kind of
watching
established
rather than
it.
getting surprised.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I think what's another great thing that Pixar continues to carry on with their tradition here that they started with Toy Story, and I guess to an extent Bugs Life, is they managed to make characters who you would normally not relate with in a kids movie extremely relatable, and also have, I guess, relevant and adult problems that you didn't think you were going to see in a kids movie.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's the beauty of Pixar.
Like, I think that's one of the most fascinating things about
I would agree.
having,
yeah.
like, for example, Woody have a midlife crisis, or the
Sullivan.
Mike Wazowski and his whole business career and everything. It's really fascinating.
These are situations that would seem very kind of boring to little children, but they make it seem very, I guess, exciting and like also, I guess, not boring to watch.
Yes. Well, much in the way that
Well, and they mask it enough and also make it accessible enough that kids aren't going to see it.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and much in the way that you might call, I don't know, something like Shazam sort of big but with superheroes. You could say that about a lot of these sort of sort of these Pixar films all sort of deal with some kind of story arc that's pretty typical across storytelling, but they're told with a sort of fantastic or ridiculous element to make it more attractive to wider audiences, not just children, because I bet a lot of people wouldn't have seen The Incredibles if it was just an animated movie about some guy having trouble at work or something like that. Like,
Right.
I wouldn't have seen that movie, and
Yeah,
a
so
lot of people would.
like, oh, an animated character struggles in his marriage and has a midlife crisis. Like, oh, that sounds like as his past comes back to haunt him. Sounds like a great kid movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
you don't want that movie. So,
And interestingly enough, Shrek came out that
But
same year.
yeah,
On
I
the
think
topic
it's
of
great that Pixar. What's on the what?
Are you?
No,
No,
you
I
go
was gonna
ahead.
say, I was gonna say, Shrek came because I guess I moved on to a different point, but Shrek came out that same year, which kind of did better than Monsters Inc. because it was the first animated feature to win an Oscar.
I don't know if
It was a
it's
little bit more
better than
popular.
Monsters Inc.
I don't
No,
know. I
Monsters
mean,
Inc. is leagues better than Shrek.
in terms of popularity,
Well,
Maybe
it is. It
I think it's
is.
also
but
a
Shrek
better
is a
movie.
meme. You don't get more popular than a meme. That doesn't make it
Well,
better.
Shrek's a meme now.
It was back in 2001.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, but
Well,
I think
and Shrek and Shrek 2 are really good movies too. So
yeah, first
yeah, 3 I haven't seen.
But sorry, going back to
talking about what
your
comes
point.
after.
Yes. Anyways, Pixar. Let's move on to Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
2003. This is the one I really grew up with. I used to watch this movie all the time when I was like 3 or something like that.
It brought back Ellen DeGeneres' career.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never would have expected an opening that was going to be that dark for a kids movie.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh
that's
yeah.
true.
It's really dark.
It's actually
My mom made it so that whenever I watched it, I wouldn't watch the opening. And then at some point, I watched the opening and I was like, "What is this?" I had no idea it was there.
This is
you must have been.
Yes.
This isn't a kids movie.
Yes. No.
I think the
Yeah, I was
the opening definitely.
kind of. I think my mom tells the story of how like I found it and then I went up and said I think that might be a little too sad for my dad.
Again, another example of how Disney was making these implementing these mature topics in these kids movies that they wouldn't really be exposed to as a kid. Like I could only relate the same experiences I had from like that type of scene to like a Studio Ghibli anime style I guess in maturity or something like that.
Well, yeah,
Or
Ghibli does much the same thing, just in a different style.
yeah, obviously they're two different types, but like I guess what I'm trying to relate the Studio Ghibli's animation to is just how mature it is.
Yeah. Well, and their animation does a lot more like merging the real world with the fantastical and making it kind of surreal in a different way, whereas Pixar animation does just a kind of like talking fish, monsters, talking toys. Like they don't do a lot of human goes out and finds this spectacular world, which is kind of
Right.
Ghibli's model. And
Mhm.
they both do what they
Is Ghibli
do
the one
really
who did
well.
Grave of the Fireflies?
Yeah.
That movie was sad.
Wait, which
That
one?
was
Like,
really
and that's
sad.
why you like, Ghibli
Grave of the
didn't even
Fireflies.
come to. Yeah, like I mean, Ghibli has some topics that are even off limits for even Pixar when they discuss the in Hiroshima in Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Disney would never do
Ghibli is not
that.
dark often.
No,
It's
Yeah.
not. They're not afraid. To
But I guess back to Finding Nemo, I was going to say the animation of the water was something that was kind of unseen before.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
I guess.
it
this
gets
is sort of where
you don't get that
Pixar began.
when you actually look at it. It looks fantastic.
Yeah, I think this is the first
It's where
movie.
Pixar began to.
Right.
I think this is the first movie in Pixar's run where it started to just look fantastic. Like it doesn't. Like I don't have any issue with the way any Pixar movie looks after this movie. Like all of them look terrific, I think.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I would agree.
still look terrific.
Yeah. So
That's also another really impactful story, I guess. But yeah.
The Incredibles. What do we have
My
to say about
favorite
this?
Pixar movie. Like I don't even care about giving it away. No, it is my favorite Pixar movie of all time, and I will defend that forever.
Okay. I think I have a few that edge it out a little bit, but it's really good. Like it's not. Most of these are really good. But yeah, Incredibles. It's been a while since I saw it, but it's got a really good superhero plot line.
Well, I personally, what I think what I love about it the most is its aesthetic. Like its whole '60s, slightly noir, but also kind of a superhero thing vibe that it had.
Yeah.
Like that Batman
Yeah, I
animated
agree.
series kind of look.
Yeah, right. I feel like the Metropolis, I forgot what the specific name for it.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of the city, but it was.
But like
Yeah,
you know, like
and
that style of photo.
yeah, I thought was also great was that whole story it had with Bob of him actually. Like I think it's always great when especially in superhero movies, the hero has to actually learn from mistakes. It isn't just this infallible hero the entire movie. Like Bob's literally his whole story is his past coming back to haunt him in this movie, and I think you don't see that really in superhero movies a lot, let alone kids superhero movies.
No, yeah,
in 2004, right?
Yeah, I totally agree.
We get an introduction to Brad Bird, someone who wouldn't be the last person to collaborate with.
Yeah, does he even have a bad movie in his biography, like his filmography? Because I'm pretty sure he's batting 100%.
I don't think so. I don't think so. He's like the Mission Impossible movies. The Mission Impossible movie director. Yes.
As his feature films, it's Batteries Not. Okay, no, for director, he didn't direct that. He's directed Iron Giant, Incredibles, Ratatouille, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, Tomorrowland, and Incredibles 2. So I didn't see Tomorrowland.
I guess Tomorrowland.
It was iffy, but
yeah,
everything else was pretty great that he did.
Yeah, classics. Mission Impossible. One of the better ones.
Brad Bird. Yeah. I think
he does a lot of shorts as well.
He does a lot of action. That's really good. Really well, I guess.
And everything looks smooth, which I think makes it look even better. Like it's all the action you see. There is no like, for example, I think it shows in Incredibles, especially in Mission Impossible, where you can it's not this close cut thing, this haphazard action sequence. Everybody has a part they're playing, and everything makes sense. You're not thinking, well, why didn't they just do this, or why did they do this? Anything in the Incredibles, you'd think, oh, why didn't they have Frozen just like feet away, and they actually do that. Like it's they
Yeah.
think of everything.
Right.
Yeah. No, yeah. Well, and Pixar is incredibly thoughtful, so that it makes sense that they would have 5 different superheroes and all of them would get all of them would have, if you have 1 minute, every person would occupy about 10 seconds of that, give or take. So yeah, Incredibles, really good. I think this might actually be
like
where
how
we
all
stop.
of it's. Well, I was just gonna say I really love all of this. Everybody's powers in the movie match their character arc.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I like that too. So I think this is where we're gonna start fighting a little bit.
What were you saying? That's where we were gonna start. What here?
We're gonna start fighting a little bit on this.
Oh
one.
yeah.
Because I really like Cars. I actually think it's really good. I don't disagree that it's a kind of toy film in the sense that like it was just made to sell toys.
So Toy Story.
Yeah, but I still think they managed to pull off a really good sort of not underdog, but sort of comeback story.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that.
Yeah, I like that a lot too. I like kind of that subverts your expectation.
Yeah.
The entire message of the film is to slow down and look at the road, look at things. They'll be so fast.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, no, it's a really, I think it's a very strong movie. It's not their best movie, but it's a strong movie.
Yeah,
I mean, I would agree. I think
it's just I don't think it's bad. I think the animation looks good, and I think this is another one of those ones like Bug's Life where I'm pretty sure I had seen it as a kid, but I don't really remember much about it. I remember always enjoying the first one, but once they got to the beginning, but once they got to Radiator Springs, I was always kind of just checked out. But at least I remember the name Radiator Springs, so at least I remembered something.
Yes.
Tom Waiter.
Yes.
I was gonna say, I think, this film itself, going back and rewatching some of the scenes, it includes some of the most beautifully rendered scenes. I think, specifically when, I forget, Lightning McQueen and what's the Porsche's name?
Oh no.
Doc or
Sally.
Wait,
Sally. It's Sally.
Sally. Lightning McQueen and Sally are like driving through like the forest and like you have the trees and you have like light trickling down on the roads.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
But there's those scenes and then you get the waterfall.
Yeah, I remember it now.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are, as a kid, those were some really beautiful shots to look at, I guess.
Well, those
with animation.
Yeah. Cars looks like it stars real talking cars. Like it
Which is yeah.
if you could somehow wipe my mind and convince me that cars could talk, I would watch that and be like, wow, that was shot in live action.
I feel like every other time though that anybody's ever tried to make a car talk animation wise, it just is bad. You know what I mean? Like, but I think that's what Pixar does though. Like, when you look at Toy Story, like if you want any other company or like I guess I've seen it done really horribly is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Animation.
And the same goes well, yes, in a more general sense. But like I guess specifically with Cars animated, I've seen TV shows where it just looks really wonky. As a kid, I would never really get attached to it. But Disney, Pixar specifically, because this is the first Disney Pixar collaboration, if I'm correct.
I think it's the first one with Pixar being a wholly owned studio. I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, okay. But yeah, it's I guess that's what Disney and Pixar really are good at.
Yeah.
Getting to my point, making the unbelievable believable.
Yes.
Exactly.
That is their mission statement. So Ratatouille.
It's another one like Cars where I remember as a kid really thinking the opening was cool, and then everything else, once it gets out of the sewer in Paris, I just didn't care anymore.
Yeah,
Ratatouille is really good. Ratatouille is.
Yeah, I think it might be. I think this is sort of where the Pixar formula started to kind of not wear off, but
No, I wouldn't say
people
that.
started
I
getting a little
disagree.
bit more cynical about it when this movie came out, and so when I watch it, it's been a really long time since I watched it because I think I probably watched it around 07 when it was released. But it says something that I remember all of these other movies so well, but Ratatouille just is kind of like, yeah, I liked it, but it's just kind of the same.
I don't know, guys. I mean, I have very opposite views from what you guys seem to have. I love Ratatouille. It's not my favorite by any means, but not my favorite Pixar, not number one. But um, it's definitely had its impact on me. I think. I guess first of all, I'd like to start off by talking about the animation itself. The food itself is beautifully animated. Like some of those shots stick with me, and I believe the short film Belle that recently came out took inspiration from Ratatouille.
Oh
And
yeah,
even, I
yeah.
think they even talked to some of the animators who worked on the film, who worked on Ratatouille, to talk with them about how to like render and animate food to where it looks as good as it does. I've never seen animated food look so good. But the story itself is cool. I, I, I I definitely there's like with I don't know. It's almost like I guess it's almost like watching something on Food Channel or something. I guess where there's this visceral reaction with them making and cooking the food, and they make it seem so I don't know. Well, they make it seem look so good, obviously, and it kind of inspired me for this film. And Chef with Jon Favreau inspired me to be a chef at one point.
Like I think it's what's
But yeah, I think
that beginning of Ratatouille with the effects, and like when he falls into that river or something. I remember it looking
right.
amazing at the time.
Right. I do have to mention, since it's been a running theme so far with this episode, I have to mention Flushed Away.
Oh yeah, I remember Flushed Away.
Yeah, that movie. Talk about a good movie. That's a good Aardman film right there.
Yeah, but I think this is definitely where I think we're coming up on a really good example of how Disney really stepped its game up. But in terms of the animation quality, this one was far more superior than any of the other competitors that were making animated films along those lines.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Wally, one of the best.
Yeah, I see
Yeah, I'm
Pixar
the
put
only
out.
person in my family who actually likes Wall-E.
What?
Yeah,
So good.
I think it's an amazing film, and I think the animation, especially at the beginning, is some of the best I've ever seen in a movie ever.
It's breathtaking.
Yeah. That
As a
being
kid,
said,
like
using the live,
sorry, I was gonna
Go
say,
ahead.
I was gonna say that it's like this movie and like anything other Disney has such a good reputation for just blowing kids' minds. Like a 12, 11-year old looking at the screen and seeing how beautiful the animation looked, my mind was absolutely blown.
Yeah.
I had the same feeling with Tron Legacy, or I mean anything like I could say this about any of the other Disney films, but this one specifically blew my mind as a kid.
Yeah. Well, and it's got one of the really impressive things that it did was it was a feature film where the main two characters only both say two different words, like combined, which is really impressive for a feature hour and a half movie to star two characters who don't really say anything except for one word.
Well, and to have
that to work, like that's really impressive.
It goes to show how far animation has come, that you can have two animated robots and that just by their facial features, I guess they don't even have faces, but like their actual like movements and of the characters, you can tell exactly what they're thinking and feeling, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's true. That's really true.
And that opening where they show him in like this desert, those individual pieces of dirt you could see and the sandstorms and everything. I remember being completely blown away by the animation.
Yeah.
And I remember the only thing that was kind of jarring was when they showed the live action footage of Mary Poppins. That was a little bit confusing for me, a kid. I was like, why we just switch midway through? But, yeah, other than that, I always thought that.
Yeah. Well, and I did think it was a little weird that they had the live action stuff of like the president saying like, "Oh, this world is uninhabitable now. We have to escape." Like while he's on world, and then they go to space and they go to the space station or whatever, and the humans are all animated. Like it's minor, but it's.
I mean, yeah, I agree.
But I don't know how else they would do it.
As a kid, I was like, humans are progressing to become more animated each year, less realistic.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree with that. Wally.
Yeah, really good.
That pretty much wraps up what I had to say about Wally.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Up. Probably their best opening.
Yeah, I mean, it's
first
it's
15 minutes are probably their best.
In terms of exactly, like montage, just a good example of, I guess, montage. Montage theory.
Yeah, the rest of the movie follows a pretty standard Pixar formula. Like, it's good, but it's just kind of more Pixar-esque. Like, the story doesn't really take that many chances.
Yeah, I was a little late on the hype train. I saw it like a couple years after.
Yeah.
A lot of people liked it though.
Like, I remember seeing it. Well, I did think the 30s adventure vibe it had for the most part of the movie was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Like the whole Charles Lindbergh kind of thing they did.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's got some cool stuff, but it does play it really safe after the first 15 minutes.
I mean, I just the story never really resonated with me as well as some of the other films they had. So this is I mean, like, which is sad to say because this is like one of many people's favorite Disney movies.
Yeah.
But for me, it wasn't as impactful as some of the other ones.
Yeah. So here for the next, let's talk about Toy Story 3. I really like it. Everybody really likes it.
2010. That was 9 years ago. Jeez.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's so weird.
I feel old.
Oh,
which
wow.
is weird for people our age to feel that way.
Yeah, but really good. I mean, who could ask for a better ending, or at least that's what we thought.
What we thought was a good ending.
But I don't know. I mean, it's I don't people don't like how the tones of the film were a little too dark for some people. But on the contrary, I think they were reasonable. I guess. I mean, it wasn't hard. It wasn't as like it wasn't.
Yeah, I did think some of those they pushed to the next level with those scenes of actual peril for these toys. I did not expect that, especially the incinerator scene.
Yeah.
Well, they had the incinerator, and they did something a little different, which was they gave the toys an actual villain and not just like some crazy person who's sort of mildly diabolical but just has like good intentions. They like this, like the bear in Toy Story 3, I don't remember his name.
Lotso the Huggin' Bear.
Yes, Lotso. He was an actual villain with sort of villainous motivations. And yet he was still really well. He had a really good emotional arc, which is what Toy Story is really good at.
And you understood his motives. It wasn't just, oh, I'm the bad guy. Like, you actually understood.
Yeah. Well, unlike some of the other villains, like the kid in one, I don't remember his name, and the
Sid.
Yeah, Sid, and who's the old
Sid's
guy, old cowboy guy in 2?
Mm-hmm.
What's his name?
Stinky Pete.
Yeah, Stinky Pete.
Stinky Pete, I think.
It's Stinky Pete. But
Stinky Pete.
Especially he's just trying to. He doesn't end up being like the real problem that they have to solve. Like, he's not a good guy, but he's not the main problem. Lotso, they had to like actually confront him in a different way, which I thought was a nice change up for Toy Story.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's move on. All right, this is probably the weakest one on this list. And that is Cars 2.
I don't think it's that bad.
I don't like it.
I don't know if it's that bad, but it's definitely the weakest one.
Finally, we disagree on something.
Yeah, for me, it is definitely the weakest Pixar movie.
Yeah, like you're gonna make a Cars movie and have racing not be the center stage. Like, oh, come on.
It's a knockoff.
I kind of like how it's like this. But I like that. I like how it was like an espionage. Like I don't know. It took you away from like the world you were. I don't know. I guess the world they had already established.
Yeah, I can understand liking it. I just, when I watch a Cars movie, I want to watch some racing, and I didn't get that in this movie really. So
that's true. Yeah, that's
true. Like, it's not a horrible movie. Like, I mean, if you compare it to some of the other animated movies that are out there, it's leagues better. But when you compare it against the rest of Pixar's filmography, it pales in comparison to most of the other films they have.
Definitely.
It's also a strange position to make Larry the Cable Guy the main character.
But I definitely think in terms of the animation, it was also another step up for Disney and Pixar.
Yeah. Well, they just keep sort of stepping up every movie, basically. Like, there's
right. I mean, they're not gonna like have one movie that's like worse than a previous film.
No.
In terms of animation.
Yeah. That's no way. So Brave. Haven't seen it.
Brave is actually one of their underrated films, question mark? I don't know.
I saw it once when it came out. I don't remember a single thing about it. Like, I edited the main character's name. I remember Merida, and that's literally it. I don't remember
I think
anything
you got
else.
that wrong. It's Meredith, right?
No, I thought it was Merida. Well, I'm looking this up. I swear.
Yeah,
Man,
but Brave is another example of a film that blew me away with some of its animation. Specifically, there's a scene with Merida slash Meredith, and she's going to shoot. She's going to shoot an arrow. I don't know if you guys remember the scene at all, but it's slow
It is
motion.
Meredith.
It's like a Merida.
Yeah.
oh,
All right,
Merida.
so Merida, she's going to shoot an arrow, and she's like trying to prove herself in this scene, and it kind of goes into this like slow motion close up of her face, and then she shoots the arrow and gets the bullseye or whatever, and splits the other person's arrow. I don't know if you guys remember that scene at all.
I remember that in
haven't
the trailer,
seen
I
it.
think.
I can't say.
But like the animation here and throughout the entire film was also breathtaking. The last time I kind of remember the same feeling was with a similar feeling was with Wall-E.
It kind of reminded me of like Pixar's take on Brother Bear.
That's true. Yeah, actually, that's a really
thing.
good. Maybe that's why I like this one.
I mean, it's not exactly the same because Brother Bear was Native American and Brave was the Scottish Highlands, but it's that similar tone. I think they both actually have somebody that turns into a bear in both movies.
Yeah. And they both are.
Like I said though, I don't really remember anything about it.
Yeah, Brother Bear is a lot better though because it holds a special place in my heart. You got Phil Collins on the track. Anything Phil Collins is about to be a.
I don't know what happened to me as a kid, but like most of these Pixar movies after The Incredibles, with the exception of Toy Story 3 and Wall-E, I don't really remember. Like I remember seeing some of them. Well, I mean, as you know, most of my childhood was just straight up Star Wars and Ninja Turtles, so I don't really know what I don't really have a.
That's an awesome childhood.
As to what the rest of it was consumed by, right?
Yeah, Brave was another film that I remember seeing. The story was, yeah, you're right, very similar. Norla reminded me of Brother Bear, but it was a good. I guess it was a story that resonated with me nonetheless. I thought it was pretty well told. The animation was good. It's not the best Disney film by any means, but it's a good milestone for them.
Yeah. Monsters University.
Another film that people apparently don't like as much too.
Yeah, no, I don't.
When compared to the next one,
very much.
I liked it. I didn't think it was terrible.
It's fine.
My entire
it's just sort of
family.
I want a continuation of Monsters, and because like it's hard to go back after they sort of fundamentally change the way that they're thinking about how to get power.
Yeah.
And so like going back to when they were just focused on the Scream stuff and getting kids to be afraid or whatever, I don't know. I think that like that turned me off a little bit when I saw it. But it's all right. It's not the worst.
Our family fell asleep when we went to go see it.
At the movie theaters.
Well, we saw it when we were on a cruise, and so it was a Disney cruise, and they gave out like you could go see a movie whenever. You didn't necessarily have to buy tickets because you were already on the boat. And I remember I was the only person who was able to stay awake for the movie. And even then, I still don't remember anything in this movie.
Oh my god!
Wow.
Yes.
I remember they tried to break into the Monsters Inc. I think, but other than that,
I
don't remember anything else.
Yeah.
That was near the end, I believe. But yeah, Monsters University (MU). Not a terrible film. I mean, it gave us, for me personally, it gave me a background story type of thing. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't like the best thing ever though. But the next thing though is arguably a lot of people's favorites.
Yes, Inside Out makes me cry. I get emotional about thinking about it. So
I know. I agree with you because like I think the first time that was, from what I recall, that was one of the I guess that was one of I literally cried to Naruto when I binged it over winter break. Like I guess I'm kind of a sucker, but when it comes to films like this, but I don't know. Inside Out was really good. There's I don't know. There's a lot to say about it, but
Yeah, no,
I remember not being able to find the song where it goes. It's it's like a rock band, but it's the emotions, sweet emotions part,
Oh, it's
and I didn't.
Aerosmith.
is it
Yeah, I know. And I was mad. I remember being mad at myself for because when I found it, I was like, wow, I know this song. I guess I had never heard the intro before to it. I guess.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Now I remember seeing
yeah.
it, and when we actually saw the movie, the power went out midway through the movie, so they had to start part of it over again.
Oh my
And
god.
so I saw the first half twice when seeing this movie.
No.
I thought the casting for the emotions was pretty great casting, especially having what's his name? I think it's Andrew Black as
Yeah.
Anger.
Yeah.
I'll look up the cast
Whoever
real quick.
it's Andrew something. I think it's Andrew Black, but
So-
he is as Anger is great.
So Amy Poehler plays Joy. Phyllis Smith plays Sadness. Richard Kind plays Bing Bong, the elephant thing.
Yeah,
Lewis Black as Anger. Bill Hader
Lewis.
Fear, and Mindy Kaling as discussed. That is a really funny cast right there. Like they were kind of made to play their respective characters.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a really good
Inside
film.
Out, really good. Most
Um,
emotional film, probably up there with other.
I would be surprised if
I
eventually
would
we get a
agree.
sequel to it.
If we get a
Yeah.
sequel, I'm scared. If we get a sequel, I don't know how that's gonna work.
No, they'll do a sequel like Toy Story where she's older and what's going on in her mind then and how the emotions have to adjust to it.
That would
I'm calling
actually
it right now
be-
because I
that
know
would
how
actually
Pixar
be
works.
pretty
They're going to
interesting.
do that.
That would be pretty interesting.
It's going to be like they're going to transition. It's going to be like her first day in high school or something, or her first day in college. It's going to be the emotions having to
Yeah.
readjust or something like that.
IOU, Inside Out University.
Inside Out universe, pretty great. So are we going on to Good Dinosaur?
Yes.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
I saw it. I don't care about it. That's basically my impression.
I think that
Yeah.
sums up most of
I mean-
America's opinion on this movie.
I mean, I was tired of the old like dinosaur story. We saw it with. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's been told so many times before. I guess I was just tired of it at that point, like the whole dinosaur storyline kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, and the animation itself didn't even look that good. Like,
No,
I mean,
the water looks really good, but but then everything else is just kind of standard Pixar, and it doesn't. It's nowhere near as good looking as really any of the stuff before it. Except maybe maybe Up, but
like
Ratatouille.
Good
but even
Dinosaur is really the only one of theirs, other than maybe Cars 2, where I feel like they're just being stagnant. Like they didn't try to really push anything forward. There's just like, oh, here's another movie. It didn't really feel like they were pushing anything forward.
Anything else anybody wants to say about Good Dinosaur? Because I don't.
Nope, that's about
Not
it.
really. I haven't seen it.
Finding Dory. I actually never watched it, and that's weird since I'm such a big Finding Nemo fan.
Finding
I've never
Nemo.
watched it either.
Now,
Yeah.
It's not bad. Like I remember seeing it in theaters. It's not as good as Nemo, which is probably obvious, but it's.
yes,
I was surprised by how it actually had some heart to it. Like it wasn't just a shameless sequel. It actually had a story they wanted to tell.
well, that's
Right.
good.
I want to see it.
It
though. I
did
wanna
take some
check it
getting
out.
used to though. That the voice of Nemo is different because the kid grew up, so that does take some getting used to going in.
Oh yeah, that is weird.
Yeah.
So Cars 3. I
Didn't
really like
see it.
They brought it back to
I saw it. Yeah. They brought it back to racing. I don't know. Do you think it's better than the first one or the second one? Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's better than the second one. If only because it sort of found what made me like the first Cars movie, which was the kind of what makes racing special beyond just going fast.
Right.
That kind of thing about it. And the fact that like Lightning McQueen's old mentor died, and so he's sort of mentoring this new racer, and I really liked it.
I enjoyed it too. I mean, I didn't think it was. Again, it's one of their more. It's one of their lesser films.
Yes.
Is the trailer representative of the actual tone of the movie with like Lightning McQueen crashing and everything?
No.
Okay. I
don't
didn't think so. I just wanted to figure it out.
I think maybe.
For part of it.
Yeah, I think maybe for part of it, there's like a kind of physical therapy aspect to it.
Kind of like Stronger.
But it's not there. It's more about improvement than it is like being crippled or something like that.
Yeah. It's the Rocky 2 of Cars.
Speaking of Rocky 2,
I actually heard that. It's like it's the Rocky 2.
Interesting. So let's move on because we're running out of time. Coco.
I haven't seen it.
It just has a little bit of a weak second act.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. I didn't go to see it in theaters, but I remember watching it in class, like in our intro to film class. Surprisingly, pretty good. I mean, obviously the story is pretty paint by numbers, but it actually found a way to make it unique by putting that story in basically what is the underworld.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's really aesthetically pleasing too. Like that's what a gorgeous movie.
It's very gorgeous.
Yeah.
The all the color and the fact that they're able to render all these individual details from a distance. Like you can, when they're walking in there at the beginning, you can see all these little things in the background you didn't even think you'd be able to see.
Yeah. No, yeah,
So you guys, everybody I've heard who's seen the movie have said they've cried.
What was that?
I really like Coco. It's the second act is a little too standard Pixar for me, but the rest of it is really solid. The first act is great. The third act is terrific. Second act is just kind of the same. Incredibles 2 had a really disappointing villain.
Especially since the villain was pretty much just the same as the first movie's villain.
Yeah. Well, my thing is that Screenslaver had such a really well done monologue and like a really well done ideology to him.
Right.
And then
well, I guess to her.
To her, yeah. But then they waste it on the reveal that it was the sister all along, and I was like, are we really like we're not gonna fight this guy who represents something? We're just gonna fight this person who hates supers or whatever. Like I thought that was kind of lame, but you know,
yeah, like
it's well acted. You know,
that was my biggest criticism of Incredibles 2 is the first one was a very mature film and had something to say, and it wasn't just we're making another movie for kids. It's a superhero movie. This one it had like a lot of ideas about like free will and superhero and law and all these things, and this movie doesn't have that maturity really, that the first one did. At
Yeah.
least not nearly as much. Other than Screenslaver's monologue that you hear while Elastigirl is swinging in like Spider-Man, and then like I'd say maybe that flashback that shows how the brother and sister's parents were killed. Really, other than those two scenes, it's pretty much standard Pixar formula.
Yeah.
Like it's exactly. I think it's really is noticeable by a lot of their more recent things, the effect that the Disney ownership has had on Pixar.
Right.
Because they play it safe with a lot of these current movies.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't disagree with you on that.
I'm glad they didn't get an Oscar last year.
Yes. So, and the final film on this list that's released is Toy Story 4. How do you feel about it?
Sorry,
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it in theaters. I thought it was pretty good. I still think the ending of Toy Story 3 is a better ending to these characters' stories. However, what I think is great about this movie is it doesn't feel like an extraneous cash grab movie. Like it felt like they actually had a story they wanted to tell when making this movie. And it makes sense. However, this better be the end because without spoilers, this is pretty much gotta be the end. There isn't really anywhere else they can go from here. I thought it wasn't as sad as number 3. I thought the animation was mind blowing. I thought Bo Peep looked a little weird compared to her character model in the first movie. Really, other than that, I think really all I can say is it looks good and it's well acted. It's Pixar doing their thing at the top of their ability. It's nothing you haven't really seen from them before in terms of quality entertainment, but it's just a really well made and really well acted movie. I guess is really the best thing to say about it.
Cool.
However, I can see, based on where the plot goes and based on the way the script is, I can see this movie being used for a lot of either way for a lot of different things. Based on this overall story and character arc that Woody has, I can see it being used by many different groups as an analogy for several different things. I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil it, but I can see Woody's whole character arc being used for many political arguments.
Okay. Well, nice. Coming up.
Yeah, we'll do more of a spoiler thing once you guys see it, or we'll probably just talk about it off air. But I can see. I think I forget the website that talked about it. It might have been Forbes or something, but they wrote a really interesting article that was pretty much just the start of the political, I guess, linking of this movie.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I am going to make the executive decision to forego our rankings because I think Ahmad's a little pressed for time. Sawyer, you are as well.
Yeah.
So I'd like to get you guys out of here as soon as possible.
We also pretty much covered
should be back.
all of it.
Yeah, should be back next week, barring any catastrophes. And we should be good to go through the rest of the summer, assuming schedules don't change. So look forward to that. Sawyer, can you rattle off social media, please?
Yeah. We are at Cascade at CASTCATE on Twitter because we're old handle. However, you can find us by searching the Lab Rats Entertainment Podcast. We are the Lab Rats Podcast on Instagram. We are currently at the Lab Rats Entertainment Podcast on Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music / Google Podcasts, whatever you call it, YouTube, and I think that's everything, unless I'm forgetting something.
Did you say Spotify?
And Spotify. That's what I forgot.
Yes. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for listening. I'm Ezra.
I'm Ahmad.
And I guess that means I'm Sawyer.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.